I still remember that night as if it were yesterday. The apartment was unusually silent when I heard the sudden crash of glass. In the dim light of my living room, I saw a shattered vase lying on the floor, water slowly seeping into the carpet. Standing across from me was Denise, my wife, her eyes burning with anger. "You betrayed me," she hissed, her voice trembling with a mix of fury and hurt. In that charged moment, I knew everything had changed. The stakes were high, and the silence between us was thick with unspoken secrets. Then, as if on cue, the phone on the table began to ring, a sound that cut through the tension like a knife. I hesitated for a split second before answering. On the other end was Tasha, Denise's younger best friend. Her voice, surprisingly calm amid the chaos, sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't help but remember our last conversation, how Denise had repeatedly pushed for an open marriage, insisting that freedom meant we could all be honest about our desires. But looking into her eyes that night, I saw something else, a deeper betrayal, a mix of desperation and secrets that threatened to shatter our entire life. Every sound, the drip of water, the low hum of the refrigerator, even our ragged breaths, seemed amplified, marking the start of a night I'd never forget. With trembling hands, I answered Tasha's call. I wasn't sure if her voice would bring me more pain or finally give me the answers I desperately sought. In that single moment, the past collided with the present, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. The morning after that chaotic night, I sat alone at my small kitchen table, the taste of cold coffee mingling with a heavy sense of regret. I couldn't shake the image of Denise's tearful, burning eyes or the way her words had cut through me the previous night. I replayed every harsh exchange in my mind, trying to understand how a conversation about an open marriage had spiraled into such explosive betrayal. Denise had talked about freedom, about being honest and open about our desires. I'd listened, confused and a little hurt, because even then I felt that something was off. But I never imagined that her gentle urging were a cover for something much darker. And then there was Tasha, Denise's bright, young friend with that warm smile that now haunted me. I had no intention of crossing any lines, yet something in me stirred, a desire to take a stand. I wasn't going to be the one left in the shadows of betrayal. As I walked to work that day, every step felt heavy with uncertainty. On the bus, I couldn't help but imagine Denise laughing with Tasha at parties, whispering secrets that I'd never be part of. I felt caught between love and revenge, each thought tangling my emotions further. At work, my mind wandered until my colleague James asked, "Something on your mind?" I simply replied, "I'm trying to figure out what's right when trust is broken." His quiet nod of understanding did little to ease the ache in my heart. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, "Meet me tonight. I have something to show you." It was from Tasha. I felt a jolt of both excitement and dread. Could this be the chance to understand her side of the story, or was I about to step into even deeper trouble? That evening, under a low streetlight outside an old cafe, I met Tasha. Her brown eyes shone with quiet determination and secrets. "I know you don't want this," she said softly, her voice steady yet trembling. "But I need to be honest about my part in all of this." We talked in hushed tones, our words barely rising above the night's chill. We confessed fears, regrets, and hints of betrayal, our conversation dancing dangerously close to the edge of forbidden desire. Before we parted, Tasha pressed a small envelope into my hand. "Read this when you're alone," she murmured. As I watched her disappear into the darkness, my heart pounded with a mix of anticipation and terror. I clutched the envelope tightly, knowing that within it lay a choice that would alter everything, pushing me down a path I never planned to travel. Standing there beneath the dark sky, one question burned in my mind: was I about to uncover a secret that would ruin us all? I walked home under a sky burdened with heavy clouds, each step echoing the uncertainty in my heart. That small envelope Tasha had given me still burned with mystery, and I couldn't shake the memory of her trembling words. Every moment replayed in my mind, the low tone of her voice, the promise of a secret that could shatter everything I thought I knew about Denise and our life together. Back in my apartment, the walls felt closer, suffocating me with memories of happier times. I sat at the kitchen table, the envelope before me, and slowly peeled it open. Inside, I found a handwritten note and a series of printed messages. The note read, "You deserve the truth. Follow the timeline." The printed messages were snapshots of texts and emails between Denise and someone else, a mysterious lover whose identity I could only guess at. With every line I read, my sense of betrayal deepened. Denise wasn't just seeking freedom through an open marriage, she had been carefully weaving a web of lies. My mind raced. How long had she been meeting him? The messages detailed secret dinners, hushed meetings, and promises of a future built on escape. I remembered the way Denise's eyes would dart away whenever I pressed too hard for answers, and now every memory was tainted with suspicion and regret. It wasn't just a case of infidelity, it was a calculated deception that made me question everything. Unable to sleep, I decided I needed to confront the storm of doubts swirling inside me. I sent a terse text to Denise asking if she was home. Her reply was chilling, "We need to talk." I knew that conversation would dredge up truths I wasn't sure I was ready for. Before I could even decide whether to brace myself for that talk, my phone rang again. It was Tasha, urging, "Marcus, you need to see something. Meet me at the old warehouse by 10. It's urgent." Her voice was laced with desperation and the promise of more answers, but also hinted at deeper trouble. Torn between confronting Denise and following Tasha's lead, I felt the pull of two diverging paths, each promising revelations and heartache. My heart pounded as I grabbed my jacket and keys. Every new message, every call, was stitching me into a trap I never chose. I hesitated at the door, caught between the urge to face the truth and the instinct to run from the inevitable storm. Outside, as the first drops of rain began to fall, I wondered, was I about to step into a confrontation that would destroy me, or would it finally set me free from the chains of betrayal? I arrived at the old warehouse with a mix of dread and resolve pulsing through my veins. The building's crumbling facade and broken windows were a stark reminder that nothing in my life was as polished or safe as I once believed. Every step I took stirred up memories and dust alike, echoing the loss of a past that felt irretrievably gone. I wasn't alone for long. Tasha was waiting near a rusted door, her eyes full of worry and resolve. "Marcus," I began, forcing my voice to remain steady despite the whirlwind inside me. "What is it you wanted to show me?" Tasha hesitated, glancing around as if expecting shadows to spring to life at any moment. "I can't keep hiding it," she whispered urgently. "You need to know what Denise has been up to." From her bag, she pulled out a small, worn folder. Inside, I found a series of photographs and additional messages, snapshots of secret meetings, hidden lunches, and whispered promises. Each photo was a blow. There was Denise, laughing with another man at private dinners, in hotel lobbies, on quiet park benches. With every image, the betrayal hit me harder, like a tidal wave crashing down upon me. As Tasha spoke, she revealed how uneasy she had grown over time. Denise had confided in her about her longing for freedom, hinting at a relationship that had grown too intense to hide. "I tried to warn you," Tasha said, her voice cracking with regret. "I never meant to hurt anyone, but I couldn't stand by while everything fell apart." Her words painted a picture that was both heartbreaking and enraging, a betrayal that wasn't a simple mistake, but a deliberate, calculated act that shattered every vow we had made. Then, out of the silence, I heard distant footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. Tasha and I froze. My grip on the folder tightened as the footsteps grew louder. Out of the shadows stepped a figure in a dark hoodie. Before I could process what was happening, the figure spoke in a low, urgent tone, "You shouldn't have dug into this." My heart hammered in my ears as I tried to understand the threat. Tasha's eyes darted around in panic, and I felt a chill that wasn't just from the cold. The stranger, someone I recognized from long ago, a man known for dangerous connections, warned, "You're in over your head. There are things you don't understand." I demanded, "Who are you and what do you know?" But he only shook his head, his eyes silently pleading with me to turn back. Then the sound of a creaking door and a distant car approaching signaled that I wasn't alone in this dangerous web. Tasha gripped my arm, and in that moment, I realized that my quest for truth was leading me into territory far darker than I'd ever imagined. I stood there, frozen between the desire for answers and the terror of what I might find. My mind raced with the possibility that every step forward might lead me deeper into a labyrinth of betrayal and danger. I couldn't escape the weight of that warning in the warehouse. Every creak of my apartment now sounded sinister. That restless night, I replayed Tasha's words over and over. Something about Denise's insistence on an open marriage had always struck me as too neat, too calculated. Now I was beginning to suspect that her yearning for freedom was a mask, a cover for something far darker. The next morning, with a heavy heart and stormy skies overhead, I finally confronted Denise. I laid out all the evidence, the photos, the messages, the timeline of secret meetings, right there in our cold, sterile kitchen. Denise's face shifted quickly from shock to an almost cold defiance. "I never wanted to hurt you, Marcus," she whispered, her voice quivering between remorse and resolve. But I couldn't let her words wash away the concrete proof in my hands. Before I could press further, the door opened and Tasha appeared, her expression pained. "Marcus, there's more you need to know," she said, barely above a whisper. She handed me another set of documents implicating someone named Calvin, a name that echoed from my past. Calvin, once a childhood friend turned enigmatic businessman, had been pulling the strings all along. Tasha confessed that Denise and Calvin had been entangled long before the idea of an open marriage even surfaced. In fact, Denise had used her friendship with Tasha to cover up a much deeper relationship with Calvin. It was all part of an elaborate financial scheme, one that threatened not only our lives but the future of everyone involved. I felt my heart pounding, my mind reeling with the enormity of it all. This betrayal wasn't just about infidelity, it was about manipulation, greed, and power. I demanded to know, "So you knew all along?" My voice broke as I asked, the hurt and anger mingling dangerously. Tasha's eyes filled with regret as she murmured, "I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't let it continue." At that moment, everything blurred together, the promises of freedom, the deceit, and the sting of betrayal. Before we could sink any deeper into the conversation, a knock startled us. I opened the door to see Calvin standing there. His dark, cool eyes and calm demeanor made the room suddenly feel even colder. "I'm here to talk," he said, as if discussing a simple matter rather than our lives in shambles. I felt the floor shift beneath me as the room grew silent, the weight of every secret almost too much to bear. As Calvin stepped into the room, I felt the foundations of my world trembling. Would this confrontation shatter every illusion, or drag us all even deeper into darkness? After Calvin's arrival, the tension in our apartment reached a boiling point. I sat there, watching as Denise's eyes flickered between Calvin and me, guilt, defiance, and sorrow all jumbled in her gaze. Calvin began explaining in a measured tone that bordered on clinical. "I never intended for things to go this far, but the opportunity for financial gain, for a new life, was too tempting." His words felt surreal, as if he were discussing a business deal rather than the destruction of our lives. Anger surged through me. "Financial gain? Is that why you're here?" I shouted, my voice cracking with pain and betrayal. Denise tried to speak, but my fury drowned her out. Every word felt like a lash against the shattered remains of trust we once shared. In that chaotic moment, Tasha, who had trailed silently, stepped forward. "Marcus, I know it's hard," she said softly, but Denise believed an open marriage was her escape. And Calvin, he promised her a way out, a chance to live beyond a suffocating life. But he was only using her, and us, to line his own pockets. Her words cut deep. I could no longer see my marriage as just a broken promise of freedom. It was a calculated betrayal that left me raw. Calvin leaned back, his face almost serene. "Marcus, understand, freedom always comes at a price. Denise's choices were not made in isolation. I simply offered her an alternative." His voice was calm, as if our lives were mere pawns in a game. As our voices clashed in a painful cacophony, my phone buzzed unexpectedly. The caller ID was unknown. With trembling hands, I answered. A distorted voice said, "Meet me at the park. I have more to reveal." Then the line went dead. That single call sent shivers down my spine. Was there another layer to this betrayal? Had we all been manipulated from the start? I felt caught at the crossroads between revenge and a desperate need for truth. The raw emotions, the anger, the betrayal, all combined to create a heavy, unbearable atmosphere. I stared at the unknown number on my phone, wondering who could be daring enough to call at a time like this. Standing amidst broken trust and seething pain, I was left to wonder who was behind that mysterious call and what revelation awaited me at the park. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread as I made my way to the park that evening. Under the murky twilight, I found a lonely bench and waited, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. The park was empty except for the rustle of leaves, a fitting backdrop for secrets to emerge. Soon, a middle-aged man approached. "Marcus?" he asked softly. "I'm Darius." His voice was cautious, almost pleading, as he confessed that he had once worked with Calvin. Sitting beside me, he began to unravel a network of deceit that went far beyond Denise's betrayal. According to Darius, Calvin wasn't just interested in Denise's freedom, he was orchestrating a vast financial scam that involved multiple people, even Tasha was in the mix. Darius explained that Denise had been lured into a promise of a new life, a lavish existence financed by hidden investments. But it was all rigged. Calvin manipulated her, and in doing so, he's been bleeding money from everyone involved, Darius said. His words left me reeling. It wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore, it was about a system of exploitation that had ensnared us all. Every word felt like a fresh wound. I remembered Denise's evasive glances, the way she always seemed to hide something behind her soft smile. Now, everything made a tragic kind of sense. I asked Darius why he was telling me this now. "Because you're the only one who can expose him," he replied, his tone urgent. "You need to gather every scrap of evidence, every secret message, every bank record. It's the only way to stop him." With each step back to my apartment, I felt the crushing weight of responsibility. I began rifling through old files and digital archives, piecing together every hidden message, every financial record. Denise's phone, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, revealed even more damning evidence linking her to Calvin's scheme. The more I discovered, the more I realized that I was staring into a labyrinth of betrayal and greed. But as the night deepened, a sudden knock on my door sent a jolt of panic through me. I peered through the window and saw a shadow retreating into darkness, a silent warning that I was being watched. The truth was coming at me fast, and now danger lurked around every corner. With evidence in hand and a silent threat looming outside, I wondered, was I now a target of Calvin's ruthless network, or could I finally turn the tables and reclaim my life? The following days became a blur of sleepless nights and feverish research. Every quiet moment I had was consumed with gathering evidence, bank statements, hidden emails, secret messages, all painting a damning picture of Calvin's scheme. Piece by piece, I reconstructed the timeline, the secret dinners, hushed meetings, and covert transactions that revealed Denise's push for an open marriage was merely a ruse to mask deeper deceptions. Late one night, I sat hunched over my desk, scrolling through old messages. I could almost hear Denise's voice, soft, pleading, and distant. But there were other voices too, like Tasha's trembling confessions. I uncovered emails that detailed secret financial transactions, implicating Calvin not just in personal betrayal, but in a massive grab for wealth and power. Each revelation stung, shattering any remnants of the life I once believed in. Desperate for clarity, I called Tasha again. In a hushed, trembling tone, she confirmed what I had feared. Denise had been under enormous pressure, manipulated by Calvin's promises of a new beginning. "I always thought she wanted love, not money," she admitted, her voice thick with regret. But Calvin made her believe that escaping her old life meant securing a future. I compiled every piece of evidence into one comprehensive folder. Hoping for justice, I reached out to an old friend, Simone, a sharp attorney who had never backed down from a fight. With her cool efficiency and fierce determination, she assured me, "We'll build a case. Every secret transaction, every hidden message, we'll expose it all." Just as I began to feel that perhaps I could reclaim some control, my phone rang. It was Denise. Her voice was soft and filled with regret. "Marcus, I need to explain. For a fleeting moment, my resolve wavered. Could there be a chance for redemption? Before I could reply, the call dropped, leaving me swirling in a storm of conflicting emotions. And then, as Simone and I prepared to bring our evidence to the authorities, an encrypted message popped up on my laptop screen. You think you've won? The game is far from over. My heart froze. Who had sent it, and what did it mean for my quest for the truth? Staring at that final message, I realized the battle was far from over. Was someone else pulling the strings in this dangerous game? Armed with undeniable proof, I arranged a meeting with Denise and Tasha at a dimly lit conference room in an old building. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and fear. I laid out every piece of evidence, photos, messages, financial records, while my voice trembled with raw emotion. Denise's eyes filled with tears as she realized how deeply she'd been ensnared in her own web of lies, and Tasha looked on with a mixture of regret and desperation. Before anyone could speak, the heavy door swung open, and Calvin strode in. His presence was magnetic, commanding, dangerous. I see you've gathered your little friends for a show, he sneered, his eyes cold and calculating as he surveyed us. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to settle things. The room instantly turned into a battleground. Denise tried to defend herself in a shaky voice. I only wanted freedom. I never meant to hurt anyone. But Calvin's words cut deeper than any accusation. Freedom, he scoffed. It was always about power and money. You were just my instrument. His revelation sent shockwaves through us, leaving me reeling from the double betrayal of Denise and the manipulator who had exploited her. In the ensuing heated argument, emotions exploded. Tasha admitted that she once believed Denise's call for an open marriage was a way to break free from a stifling past, but it had spiraled into something uncontrollable. In that volatile moment, Simone entered, her presence a calm anchor amid the chaos. Enough, she commanded. We have enough evidence to bring Calvin down. Now, you all must decide, will you stand by your lies or help right these wrongs? I felt the weight of every choice I'd made converge on this single moment. But before I could process Simone's words, my phone buzzed with one final text: the next move is yours. That simple message left me breathless, questioning who had sent it, and whether this ultimatum would force us all into a final, irrevocable showdown. With our futures hanging in the balance, I stared at that text. Was this the final call to action, or a trap that would push us beyond the point of no return? In the days that followed, the personal battle merged with a legal one. With Simone's help, I presented our damning evidence to the authorities. In a tense courtroom showdown, every lie, every betrayal, was put under the harsh light of truth. I took the stand, recounting the unraveling of our lives, the open marriage that was never truly open, the secret meetings, and the manipulation by Calvin. Each word was a release, a strike against the fabrications that had bound me for so long. Denise sat at the defendant's table, tears streaming down her face as she admitted, I wanted to escape, but I never meant for it to come to this. I felt torn, my heart ached for the love we once shared, even as the evidence of betrayal left me shattered. Tasha, too, was caught in the crossfire of her guilt, silently witnessing the dismantling of a carefully constructed facade. The courtroom drama was just one part of the battle. Outside, hidden financial records and secret accounts exposed the full extent of Calvin's corruption. Simone's relentless pursuit of justice finally led to a breakthrough. The judge announced severe penalties for Calvin, effectively dismantling the empire built on lies. For a fleeting moment, I felt vindicated. Then, in the midst of the courtroom's murmur of relief, my phone buzzed one last time. The message simply read, "This isn't over." I stared at the screen, heart pounding, wondering if another mastermind lurked in the shadows, orchestrating chaos beyond my comprehension. As I absorbed that final, chilling message, I realized that despite our victory in court, the war of betrayal and manipulation might still have one final, devastating twist. In the silence following the trial, I found myself alone with the remnants of a life shattered by betrayal and deceit. The verdict against Calvin brought relief to some, but for me, it was a bittersweet victory. My marriage with Denise lay in ruins, a casualty of secrets, manipulation, and desperate attempts at escape. Over the next few days, Denise reached out repeatedly, begging for forgiveness, for a chance to explain. But I had learned that some betrayals cut too deeply to ever be mended. I began the painstaking process of rebuilding my life. With Simone's steady guidance, I turned inward, confronting the pain and loss, and learning to navigate a future that was as uncertain as it was promising. I clung to memories of better times, of laughter, of shared dreams, but also accepted that the past could not be changed. Tasha, too, sought redemption. She publicly apologized for her role in the deception, determined to help others avoid the pitfalls of betrayal. And Denise, alone in an empty apartment filled with the echoes of what once was forced to confront the harsh reality of her choices. Then, just as I began to see a glimmer of hope, my phone buzzed one last time, a final encrypted message that read, "Let go or be haunted forever." It was both a challenge and a reminder that the scars of the past might never fully fade. Standing on the threshold of a new beginning, I looked at a photograph of happier times and realized that while the wounds were deep, they could also lead to growth and redemption.